I'm Richard Porter, and this is Smith and Sniff, except it's a Smith and Sniff clip show of things you've already heard, because Johnny's on holiday. Sorry. Hi guys, Johnny's away. He will be back soon, but in the meantime, this is another clip show. I asked people on social media if there's anything they wanted to hear again, and these were some of the things that got voted for. So in this episode, we've got Tiff's jacket, we've got a bit of Postman Pat, some autojumble, some Vauxhall grot, and we end with that Jackie Stewart song I did a while back because someone asked for that. But we start with Clowning a Rascal. Most weeks I have some letters or emails queued up
from the listeners.
I have a few telegrams from the listeners queued up, but and we never get round to them. So yeah, you're right. It feels like there's a bit of a backlog.
That was a massive backlog. I thought I'd kick off this particular episode of Smith and Sniff with a real letter from a real person called Ross. And Ross sent this absolutely amazing email. Here we go. Dear Richard and Johnny, I was excited to hear that you are potentially looking into a high-level discussion around magicians' cars. Yeah, we were, weren't we? We never quite got around to it.
Well, because we talked about it when we weren't recording, I think. It had come up in conversation for reasons like...
Oh, is that what I think it was about David Copperfield's motors or... yeah.
Was it? I can't. That's the thing. I can't remember how we got there, but it was one of those ones that happened
Siegfried
in real
and Roy
life.
White Rolls Royce spec.
And I know, because we were. Yeah, I remember. Because weren't we talking about? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that weird thing a few years ago when we got a leaflet through the door, like a flyer, you know, the kind you'd get for a local curry house or pizza place, but it was for a local magician.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
it really weirded me out.
And you kept it.
Yeah, and. So, yes, we were going to talk about magicians' cars, and I think we sort of alluded to it on the show, but then we didn't talk.
Didn't have quotes from famous people on it, like, I can't believe, I don't know how the frig he did that by Jason Statham.
Yeah, and one of them was, I can't remember who it was, because they were quite famous people as well, like Andrew Lloyd Webber and Chris Martin from Coldplay, but with photos.
Yeah, like
of
shock
this
photos,
guy like with them. So, unless he was very good at Photoshop, it suggested it was all legit, but... I think one of them said, "Get out of here," and I always thought you could read that in various different tones of voice.
What, like he took a selfie without permission? And then
because it's like, obviously the quote underneath the photo, "Get out of here."
Get out of here.
I can't believe what an amazing magician you are, but it could be read as "Get out of here."
Just go away. Leave me alone.
By Andrew Lloyd Webber. Yeah. And there was another one, the quote was, I can't remember who this was, might have been Chris Martin from Coldplay. It said, "I'm not going to sleep tonight." But again, you could read it as, "How did you get in here?"
Yeah.
"I'm not going to sleep tonight."
What, like he got up for a 4 a.m. piss, and suddenly there's a magician
in the bathroom
going, "Listen, pick any card." You go, "Dude, you're in my house. What's going on here?"
Did you leave the bathroom window open last night? Yeah, I did. Why? It was hot. Is that a problem? Yeah, a fucking magician got in there. There's a magician in the ensuite. Don't go in there.
He's wearing one of those sort of worryingly baggy suits where you think, oh, hang on, there's no need for it. There's quite so much excess fabric unless he's trying to squirrel stuff away. So I'm immediately suspicious of him.
So,
I mean, who has such a loose cuff?
People who would be good as magicians would include Michael Jordan and his Chicago Bulls teammates from the 90s, who, as we know, had the baggiest suits in all of history.
Oh, a basketball awards ceremony suit. I mean, you could go, "Listen, in one of my hands, I've got a polar bear. Have you?" Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Is this your car? Where the hell did that come from? Did you have that up your sleeve? Oh, my God. No wonder you need so many folds of linen.
Open my jacket. In the left-hand pocket, I've got a BMW motorbike. In the right-hand pocket,
a branch of boots.
I've got a Harley Davidson Livewire. You guess. which one's in which pocket. I got no idea, Michael. I absolutely no idea. What is with all this flowing fabric? It's just ridiculous. Anyway, look, I was supposed to start a letter and we've already trashed it.
Sorry, yes.
Dear Richard and Jonny, but this is from Ross Clow or Clow. I was excited to hear you potentially talking high-level discussions around magicians' cars. Although not technically a magician, I did encounter a highly agitated clown driving quite an interesting vehicle. While driving back from university one evening, circa 2002, I ended up following in behind a Bedford Rascal moving at a very slow rate down a narrow residential street. My assumption was that this was probably a delivery driver looking to handbrake coast to a halt outside a property to execute a quick drop-off. Good observation, Ross. Being a busy guy, I must admit, I did become a bit agitated at this slow pace, so I hit the driver with a cursory toot of the horn to indicate there was a queue starting to form. My interest was piqued, though, when out of the driver's window a slightly oversized white-gloved hand indicated its annoyance at me in the form of a wanker gesture. Needless to say, I retorted with my own hand gesture and a silent mouthing of, "Fuck you." Mr. Rascal, as I didn't refer to him then, proceeded to accelerate aggressively using all 970cc towards a mini roundabout, making a violent swing at the wheel to make a full 360 turnaround. Mr. Rascal's Rascal succumbed to its chode-like... chode-like, tall as it was, design feature and began to tip over onto its left side. While I did find this shocking, I was even more shocked to see a fully made-up clown staring... A fully made-up clown staring accusingly back at me in the final throes of the disaster. Red nose, chalk white face. I assume this was makeup, not terror causing this. Red wig, novelty-sized gloved hands included. Ultimately, the poor rascal did complete its collapse onto its left-hand side, at which point the rear door popped open and all the accessories of a professional children's entertainer spilt out onto the road. And in the case of the balloons... floated gracefully skyward like some kind of clown distress signal. Being the good Samaritan that I am, only after briefly planning to drive on, I pulled over and I ran to retrieve poor Coco from this mess. Fortunately, he was not injured, but he did proceed to verbally abuse me, using every profanity under the sun for, as he puts it, harassing him into an accident, you effing see. Naturally, the police were called to resolve the issue, and I was let off with no charge and no warning, but the sight of Mr. Clown agitatedly describing the situation to the cops while still fully made up has stayed with me forever. It did turn out that he'd been late for an engagement at a children's party and had been driving slowly to try and identify the correct house to arrive at before our paths crossed. The moral of this story is that a Bedford Rascal / Suzuki Carry would be a shite magician's car, particularly if they have a heavy right foot. Possibly oversized shoes were a contributing factor in this case. Please feel free to use this story as you see fit. It certainly made me chuckle. Best regards, Ross. Oh my word, what a great letter.
Wow.
So road rage clowns in tumbling rascals. I mean, wow. I love the gloved hand out the window.
The gloved hand, the balloons. It's the only thing that could have made that story better is if when he went to help, 9 other clowns somehow got out of the wreckage of the rascal.
But they all got out in a really jolly way, like they did forward rolls and like jazz hands.
Well, yes, forward rolls and tumbling and lots of japery, but also
a bit pissed off,
abusing Ross,
calling him an effing
C.
That's just so good. You caused me to have an accident, you effing C.
Now, before we Well, we already have sort of moved off the topic of Goodwood Speed Week that we were at last time. We did a podcast. Another update was that we finally got to catch up with Tiff after we'd recorded the last show.
And I know where this is going.
He was on fine form, but there was a particular revelation which bounced off something. I don't think you've ever mentioned this on here, but you have told me a long time ago. You told me that, and I remember this sort of from doing old Top Gear with him, that when he turned up on fifth gear shoots, he was always wearing. How did you describe it?
He always wore a Hugo Boss leather jacket that was so thin. Very, very lovely leather, but it was like a carpaccio of leather. You know, it's almost translucent. It's that thin, very high quality. Sure. But then, but constantly moaning about how cold it was, and it's like, well, this isn't news. We live in the UK.
Wearing a tissue thin jacket.
It's like Hugo Boss does brown kitchen roll. That's highly lacquered, and then as a jacket, and he refused. I think he's slightly phobic of wearing practical coats. That's my, and because there was a bit of an ongoing joke, and I remember it was either Vicky or Jason when we were filming said, "Oh, Tiff, this going to get cold today. You might have to get the rally jacket out." And he was going, "No, don't need the rally jacket. It's not that bad." And I was like, "What is this? What's this rally jacket that you speak of?" It turns out that in the boot of his car, at all times, he carries a jacket that he Skoda Racing Team jacket that he got from like a very old World Rally, and it's just like if I break down jacket, and he never really wears it. And there was one shoot in all. How many years have I worked with him? 14 years. There's one shoot I've seen him reach for it. It was Bruntingthorpe, and it was horizontal rain, and it was, in fact, it was almost sleet, and we had to film underneath one of the static aircraft because it was that bad. And Tiff went, "That's it. I'm getting the coat." And it was this really like scraggy, slightly sun-damaged rally jacket.
Sun damage?
Yeah, I think it's just been. I've seen on the passenger. I don't know what it's been in the boot of his estate, because he does like an estate. But yeah, I just don't know. And he used to take the piss out of me, like, "What are you doing with that big puffing jacket?" I said, "Well, it's because we're on a barren airfield for the next 14 hours, and I end up getting frostbite. That's why, Tiff." And I've told you that story before about him insisting. I mean, this is the least eco thing. I will say Tiff's a wonderful man, but this is a true story. It was the last day of the last shoot of the series. We were at Rockingham doing team tests, and it was flipping freezing. It had snowed the night before, so it was thawing out. Tiff turns up naturally, just a very thin shirt and a leather jacket on, and he before anyone said anything, said, "My car's going to be running all day, heated seats on, heating at 30. Nobody touch it, nobody turn it off." and honestly, it's just brilliant. Just like the sound man said, "Tiff, listen, I can hear your BMW idling in the background of all of our pieces to camera." And he went, "I'm not fucking moving it. I'm not turning it off." And as soon as he would do the piece to camera, he'd run into the car and go, "There we go, Jonny." And I opened the door to talk to him, and it was like someone had opened an oven. And he goes, "I've got everything I need in here. I've got coffee, and I've got Planet Rock and a heated seat." And that was it.
I've just looked at one of these messages. I realised we had an exchange, because I asked you what Michael McDonald drives. I think because I was somewhere where they were playing Michael McDonald. And
was it Yamo B there? Would have been, wouldn't it?
I can't remember.
Sweet Freedom.
Oh, it was. Because I was suggesting he drives a Cadillac Alante, and your suggestion was he used to have a Shat Cadillac, but these days he's gone Palm Springs Lexus with a corded mic in the centre armrest that he can sing lyrics into.
Michael McDonald's got quite a big face from memory, a bit like Kenny Rogers.
Yes. So
I'm thinking he will have those sunglasses which have a folding nose bridge and they fit into the pouch.
Shit, petrol station aviators. They don't sit straight. They never sit the arms and never
sit straight. And across the top, they'll have a sort of speedy font, and it'll say something like Speedster.
Yeah.
Or Fast Line. It'll say Fast Line. Yeah. And you just go, what? On glasses.
Something really inexplicable, like yacht magic down one arm, but they don't. They make you look like you're Eric Morecambe doing a skit because they sit at such an angle on your face. It looks like you're doing it for comic effects. You go, Michael. What's the gag here? I'm not seeing it. What are you talking about? You're sunk. Oh, never mind.
It's the folding nose bridge glasses that someone's already sat on, and that's
he just folded them up, but he put them in his front trouser pocket for some reason without the case. And
he's trashed it.
It's just microscopically sent everything a little bit more out of whack, and that's...
Well, you need to put them on a jig.
Dreams.
Got to put them on a specialist jig.
There's not a jig made that can pull them back to straight, because they're always going to be slightly on the bonk.
An aviator sunglasses accident jig that Michael McDonald... Michael McDonald is invested in.
He's finally got sick of everyone taking the piss out of him, and so he's invested millions in developing a foldable faux aviator jig that can bring them back to true. Still doesn't work.
You got to leave them on there for like a month just to get it right. Just to get it right, they tweaks it ever so slightly.
He's driving out to a gig in Reno with the roof back on his SC430.
Oh, he's got an SC430, I bet he has.
And just the heat alone microscopically warps the thin, cheap metal arms of his petrol station aviator. And he's back to square one. Just buy some Ray-Bans, Michael. You're a well-to-do man. No, I love these. I've had them since 1984.
Well, not only that, though, because they're petrol station glasses, he buys them at sort of 10 at a time and puts them in different drawers in different cars. And it has to be, but none of them quite fit, do they? So
these ones have Ferrari written on them, but with only one R in the middle.
Oh yeah, that's right. There'd be a silhouette of a raging bull, but it'll say Maserati on it with a Z. Yeah. Oh gosh, we're a pair of tossers, aren't we?
I found the message that you forwarded to me from your dad.
Oh,
it says, by the way, Mum said to me the other day, Jonathan and Richard say twat a lot. I know it's rude, but I don't know what it means. My standard reply to this, and why does he talk about Brian so much, is you'll have to ask him. I hope she does, or I'll have to stop being a coward and explain.
How much time have you got, Richard? I've got quite a lot of intel from my most recent autojumble experience.
Oh my God,
my brother Greg!
I totally forgot that and this was my number one priority, was to ask you about the autojumble. So, how was it?
Like I just said, how much time have you got?
Let's try and keep this to a tight 50 minutes, but go for it.
Okay, right. I went to an autojumble on Sunday morning. I got back from a shoot at midnight in mid-Wales, so I was a tired man, but I didn't want to let my brother down because I have a habit of sometimes cancelling on him at the last minute, and he calls me a flake. So I didn't want that to be a repeat. So I said, okay. So he picked me up at 6. Early start for these things, remember, especially if you're a trader. Yeah. You've got to get your tarp out early and your spot. So he picked me up in the Golf TDI, and I said, can I just have a bit more sleep? So about 3/4 of an hour's journey. So I just got in the back and fell asleep for a while. Got there, and he did warn me. He said, you're going to see a lot of people today. You're going to see a lot of bad hair, and you're going to see a lot of people that brush their teeth with Lucozade and cat mess. So I said, okay, right. Okay, so I've written down some of my observations there's a combination of people and situations. I went off for a little walk once Greg had set up the stall with my nephew, because my nephew came with us, Oscar, and he's been to quite a few, so he's a bit better rehearsed than me. I tried to say to him that your dad and I used to go to these before the internet, so you couldn't just go on eBay and go, oh look, I really want a 1930s RAC badge. Click, oh there it is, I've just bought it. I said, if you were looking for a 1930s RAC badge, you went to these sorts of events and you just combed through it, and you get the odd guy who's a little bit socially awkward walking around with a chalkboard A-frame on himself which said wanted matchless engine parts, 1950 to 1960.
I've forgotten about that.
And they'd want people to tap them on the shoulder and say, oh yeah, I've got a load of bits from that motorbike, do you want to buy them? And he'd go, maybe, but I'll come around your house and I'll bore you first. So so there's that. But all the stalls were out. There's a combination of actual car and motorbike stuff, parts being sold, and then there's your sort of cut price tools, and also, I don't know, a huge abundance of Chinese nitrile gloves, I realised as well, a huge amount. We went to a stall and I noticed there was a guy wearing what looked like a really flammable old motocross jacket. It was red and extremely sort of puffy with white stripes on. But then he became nicknamed Captain Bootcut because I looked down and he had the most bootcutty of jeans.
Oh,
and he was doing a roaring trade in old swords and Zulu spears that are obviously from a dead.
What the?
Seriously.
Had he gone to the wrong event?
Well, this is what, because my nephew was looking at one of these spears because he was fascinated by them. It just looked like he'd gone to the Natural History Museum and just filled your coat. And, so we were looking at that. But the thing, when we did a quick sweep and we went past a Luton body van selling loads of old office equipment, like, and military surplus kind of drawer units and stuff like, and like garage benches. Yeah. But there was this huge glass fibre minstrel stood there. It must have been about 8 feet tall. And I was just like, what? Who's going to buy that? Why would you go to an event and buy a minstrel statue? It's very, very odd. So my brother, because it was quite near to my brother, when we went back to his stall, he had 2 things to report to me. One of them was vulgar, and one of them was, he said, did you ask how much the minstrel statue was? And I said, no, because A, I don't want it, and B, I just not interested. So he went and asked for it, and the guy said, no, it's not for sale, mate. and Greg was like, but why have you bought it? 'Cause it's actually quite a big, cumbersome thing.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's just there. I guess is it to lure the crowds in? I just don't know. I honestly don't know. But what I do know is he said, I've already sold a couple of things, guys. Greg was very happy. Sold a couple of those old Esso fuel cans. And the lady said, don't suppose you've got a bag of you? And Greg looked around, and when we pulled up at our plot, there was this large orange, I think it was a Sainsbury's bag for life. And he said, I'll just go and get this bag. This bag's here. I'll just go and get it. And he went and picked it up, and it felt a bit of weight in it, and looked in, and to his horror, I mean, his face said it all. He said, I was about to give this woman a bag for life, and I realised it had not just shit in it, but actual human shit with wet wipes and toilet paper. So he said someone had coiled into a bag for life and then just left it.
Oh my God.
I know.
But
in the middle of an autumn.
During the event.
Well, I really hope not. I mean, it was quite close to a couple of dodgy looking vans, but anyway, he was horrified.
Come and, like, do they let you come and sort of camp out the night before?
I don't know if you're allowed. I mean, some of the hardcore do, because there were some people that came a long way. Some people came from, right up in the northeast and right up in Lancashire, and you've got to want to do this. It was actually that bag for life, full of bag of shite for life, as we called it, was very close to a chap in an LDV pilot who we unanimously decided looked like a character from The Dark Crystal, if you remember that Jim Henson film.
Yes.
If you imagine a character from The Dark Crystal driving quite a shabby LDV pilot van, that was him. But even more impressive was our
There's not so much money in the old Dark Crystal business these days, so, doing a
bit of auto jumbling.
Yeah.
The chap next to us, in the plot next to us, he was selling sort of like cheap panel wipe and terps and, like aerosols of matte black paint, that kind of thing. Uh-huh. But we noticed after he pitched up, so we're talking at 7 a.m. here, right? He had a family bottle of Coca-Cola. And he cracked open the lid and he had about a third of it straight off. But then he opened a packet of Reese's Pieces and started eating them. And you're thinking, this is breakfast. This is breakfast, Richard. This is before 7 a.m.
Yeah.
That's
quite an intense breakfast. Where are you going from there except just spooning icing sugar into your mouth with a ladle?
Exactly. So a couple of tables down from Captain Bootcut, we came across this fascinating thing, which was a guy who was riding quite erratically on a sort of a Chinese chromed up mobility trike, but it had a Ford Escort seat bolted onto it. So it had a really huge seat. Had a really large seat, which made it quite top heavy, in my opinion. And he was herring around and trying to vacuum up as many bargains as possible.
Yeah.
And what we did notice actually is Captain Bootcut, besides selling the Zulu spears, he also had, and this was you don't know what you're going to get at an auto jumble. He had a huge model boat, probably 1.5 meters long, I'm going to say, made of matchsticks. But someone had actually scuppered it. It had a hole in its hull about the size of a fist, like someone had had a rage with it and then punched it. And I just couldn't work out whether it was a great thing to buy or an awful thing to buy. So we were staring at that. And then we saw probably the two funniest guys. My brother instantly named them Grand Wizard and 70s Roadie. So Grand Wizard definitely looked like he was from the Ku Klux Klan, but probably from, I don't know, Yorkshire instead of America. So he was walking around with 70s Roadie guy, who did have a leather waistcoat on. Bear in mind, it was really, really cold in the morning and a bit windswept. Yeah, these two guys were looking, and they came up to Greg's stall, and Greg's quite chatty with them. He said, "Oh, morning, gents. How are you? What sort of thing are you looking for?" And they both just went, "Oh, I don't know what I'm looking for." And Greg was like, "What? So you got no idea what parts you're looking for at the auto jumble?" They went, "No, just looking for stuff that's interesting." So my brother just started trying to sell them anything. Hey guys, do you know what's interesting? A distributor for a VW Jetta. Yeah, oh yeah, we had all of that. There were things like people selling broken trolley jacks. So you're so you think, what earthly use could you have for a broken trolley jack? Well, I mean, is this for life's risk takers? You go, what could possibly go wrong? I've got a 2-ton trolley jack that's a bit broken. Ooh. It's broken. So anyone want a broken parachute? Broken parachute, lads. Ooh. Broken life support machine, anyone? It's just for some things. Honestly. Need to be thrown away. Those needed to be thrown away. I've just written. I think upcycling and recycling is fabulous, but there is a limit. Yeah, there is. The limit is a broken trolley jack. Well, you had everything. Honestly, Richard, you had everything. You had a new old stock box of really terrifyingly scary old marionette puppets right next to some immaculate Foden truck badges, and I was just like, it was wrecking my head with how weird the place was. It was fascinating. You would have
I'm
loved.
starting to think that the police should just go into an auto jumble and arrest everybody. Because they're going to find something. I mean, who's taking a box of marionettes to a frigging auto jumble?
They were there.
Is it a cry for help? Is he signalling somebody?
They were there.
Is it code?
They were there.
This is deranged.
I know it was. Well, there was a lot, because it was first thing in the morning, of course. And definitely a type of guy there. I probably saw 4 women. There was a type
you
of...
don't say. Was David Gandy there? Brad Pitt?
Yes.
That bloke out of the 1975, were they all hanging out going, oh, look, there's some marionettes. I'll get those after I've bought this fucking master cylinder for an ITAL.
Yeah, David Gandy was like, I could have gone to the Goodwood Breakfast Club. No, I'm going to come here. I think this is much better. Because you get things like, there was genuinely a Confederate flag flying from a Bedford CF2. That was about 8 foot square, but it had a pirate skeleton in the middle with pirate swords, and that confused us because we were like, "Hang on, is this like Pirates of the Confederacy? What is this a film that I'm not aware of?"
Film that Disney passed on for various reasons.
Yeah, I just
the script was solid, but. The racism.
So we had that, and we had a chap that looked like a chap that walked towards us, and we all did that. You know, when you look at someone and then you look at your friend who you know might corpse. We did that, and then he went by, and there was just something about him that was extremely odd. And my brother was like, "What's going on with that guy?" And I went, He looked like Paul Young, who'd been viciously attacked by a hive of wasps, a nest of wasps. So you have this huge sort of swell reaction.
Anaphylactic Paul Young.
Yes, honestly.
Somebody get an EpiPen. He's due to do wherever I lay my hat in 5 minutes on the main stage.
Seriously, it was EpiPen Paul Young. It was amazing.
It's almost like a party trick. He'd turn up and he'd go, "Ooh, you think I look a bit like Paul Young? Watch this." Dunk, EpiPen in the thigh. It's like he shrink wraps back down to normal Paul Young scale, and then you can go, "See, ta-da, it's me."
My nephew,
I'm the kind of guy who never...
My nephew said it brilliantly. There was a certain smell around the place, and he said, "Dad, this place is full of red meat ghosting." And I said, "What?" He said, "Oh, it's full of. There's so much red meat ghosting going on around the pasting tables." And I just like, "What do you mean?" He went, "Well, you know, like you let a guff out and then you just drag it around, and it's very meaty." So I went, "Oh, the poulassu," and he started laughing at the poulassu, whereas I, for the rest of the day, was referring to red meat ghosting, which just
crop dusting.
Yeah, is that what you call it?
That's quite a well-known thing, isn't it? It's crop dusting.
Crop dusting. I've never heard that. Okay, so there was a lot of that going on. Guy turned up in a Fiat Doblo van to pick up something very heavy that he'd bought that probably he didn't need, and as he pulled up opposite our stand and opened the back doors, on the back door in a huge sign which looked like sort of motorway maintenance, but it said Owl Rescue.
Owl Rescue?
Honestly, I've got a photo of it. It just said Owl Rescue. So was it an owl rescuing van? I don't know. So it's just as weird as it sounds. So I took a picture of two Owl Rescue. I'll forward it to you.
What do you do? Like dial 999. There you go. Which service you require? Owl Rescue, please. Certainly. Don't worry, sir.
Is it like Chris Packham's answer to
near
Ghostbusters?
MOT failed Fiat Doblo's on its way. This week, looking at my little document of things I want to talk to you about, and I've got nothing except I've noted down a little fact that I'm going to share at the end that's Christmas relevant, and then that's it. All I've got is still got fizzy yoghurt. It's written there. I'm not deleting it until I figured it out, so that's still there. And then I've got your...
What did I send to you in the middle of the night that I wanted to talk about?
Well, last week you tantalisingly mentioned the Network Q VHS porn collection, and was that right? Am I getting it right?
Oh, yeah.
And then didn't. So I feel like we have to pick up that discarded avenue of filth.
It was a guy that I met a couple of weeks ago and who used to work many years ago for Vauxhall in the early 90s, when I think they first computerized their used car network. So you could search. He said this is when you could search for whatever car you wanted in whatever dealer, and you could say, "Oh yeah, you're looking for a white Astra. Yeah, we've got one. We can get it to you to this dealer for £100 for you to look at. Are you interested?" Yeah. Anyway, he said, "Oh, but of course we used to have our own. We used to have our own database. There was a bloke. I actually can't remember the guy's name. I think it was something like Grotty John." and Grotty John used to, apparently in this Vauxhall dealership, he ran his own private adult film VHS library. What? And it was like a cupboard or a filing cabinet, and it had a booking in and out system. And so it was free to all the workers, but you had to obviously make sure that you book things in and out, and it was very methodical. Yeah, apparently it was a thing. And I said I couldn't stop laughing because I just thought, you imagine if Vauxhall actually offered this as a network. You go in to buy yourself a Calibra, and you end up with, I don't know, Fantastic Twats Volume 5. But yeah, it was. It's just brilliant. So I thought that's with the dawning of with the internet, that's just all dissolved, hasn't it? And
yeah,
I said to the
true.
guy, I said, "Do you still keep in touch with this bloke, whatever it was, Grotty John or whatever his name was?" He goes, "Oh no, I've wondered what became of him," and I'm thinking, does he still have the library? Is it like a stillborn library? It just sits in a loft, or is it?
Maybe it's been donated to. Like there's there is or was a National TV Museum in Bradford, maybe.
Oh yes,
maybe somewhere like that. A museum of media.
Yeah.
BAFTA maybe, but I know that BAFTA in central London they've just refurbished their premises, and perhaps
there's definitely room for
they could have a sort of a lovely
grot library
in there. Yes, here this is the Ian McKellen room where you can have functions and so on, and this is an old steel filing cabinet full of bongo vids, which you'll notice has got a sticker of a Nova SRI on the front of it, so that's a lovely little artefact there.
Oh, and he did say, actually, he said one day they played a trick on one of the workers. He said, "Oh, I've got a day off tomorrow, and my wife's going to be at work, so I'm just going to spend the whole day watching adult videos." And he booked a few out. What they did is, the workers looked at what he was booking out, and they apparently changed all of the videos for Astra promo videos. so that he put the video in the cassette player, and it was just talking about the aspirational new Vauxhall Astra when he had his trousers down by his ankles, which they thought he came in the day after, the week after, and was apparently blue in the face, furious that he'd wasted his opportunity.
I mean, there's an awful lot to take in on this, but mainly the idea that salesmen would pop in and go, "Yeah, I'm just taking the keys to the blue Carlton, that's all right, and also I'll have Mega Boobs 7 while I'm here, please."
Yeah, it's no problem, mate, no problem.
What was his name? Grotty what? Sorry, not
Grotty John.
Grotty John.
His code name was Grotty John. Code name. I thought we were going to read. Were we going to read out some readers' letters today?
Were we? I was going to. Do you know what I was going to? I had something I wanted to talk to you about. I had two things actually. One of them was I haven't told you the story, which was told to me at the Late Break live show in Leicestershire, so months ago now.
Okay.
Regular listeners might remember we had a story about mucky videos, didn't we, in a car dealer?
Yes, I'm aware of this story.
It was a Vauxhall dealer, wasn't it?
It was Network Q Grot Library, I think we called it.
Network Q, the Grot Library, yeah. Was it mags or VHSs? I can't remember. Maybe it was both. Well,
I think it was. Motion pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a chap who used to work at Vauxhall headquarters in Luton, he was, I believe, an apprentice in the 70s, told me that at Vauxhall head office in the engineering department, there was a grot mag system. And as the most junior member of the team at that point, he was told to go to the local newsagent and pick up a stack of this month's freshly printed grot mags.
Continental pamphlets, yes.
Yeah. But before he left the building, he was given a bag containing last month's grot mags and told to take it back because the newsagent near Vauxhall HQ operated some kind of trade-in system. So he would take the old grot bags back and the bloke would basically knock a load of money off the new ones he was selling him.
No.
And he'd take them back and then they would be sort of passed around the engineering department
approved
for a
pre-owned?
month. Pre-owned. And then what do they call it sometimes? Pre-loved used cars. The pre-loved magazines would then be gathered together at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, and the junior member of the team would be sent to the newsagent to trade them in for some new ones.
My gosh, it's not so. I didn't realise there was a Part X of pornographic material.
Well, I would be dubious about buying a second-hand magazine of any kind, but of a grot mag, I'm sorry, but no, I don't. I mean, I don't think antibacterial gel had been invented back then. It's just revolting. No,
I've sat in many a kind of tea break caravan in the back lot of a body shop or a repair garage, and I, to be honest, I don't even like drinking out of the teacups in there, let alone holding a graphic novel
bongo mag
made in the Netherlands.
Did you read that story about Craig Charles that I sent you?
Yes, I did, and it had me sniffling like mad.
Holy hell!
I know.
That, for people who may forget, there's one of the tabloids did an expose on Craig Charles many years ago because he was secretly recorded in the back of a taxi, a Skoda Octavia taxi, going from
good detail
London to Manchester, during which he smoked a large quantity of crack cocaine and also forced the driver to pull over and buy him some grot mags, and then complained as they continued their journey and he continued to smoke crack that he couldn't understand some of the magazines because they weren't in English, and made the driver pull over and get some more that he could understand.
He was
the whole story
muttering and rocking, and then
muttering and rocking and sweating profusely.
Oh, and drinking.
It's a really troubling story.
And he had lager as well. He had lager and also Red Bull. So he had the full suite. There. Yeah. Did he?
Uppers and downers and sideways
everything.
And oh my God, I mean, it made me feel a bit sort of clammy and unclean just reading it. But
me too. He made the driver go in and buy some of the extra.
Anyway, yeah. But he got a stack of porn mags and then he couldn't understand. I mean, I don't know, what was he?
Look, it's all about
reading
the
letters page.
All about the plot, Richard. As you know, it's all about the plot.
You must have read the Thomas the Tank Engine books.
No, I've got no.
You never watched the series or anything?
I used to watch the early ones where it was real railways.
Right. Yeah.
I really appreciated the scaled down. I know we had this conversation in a very recent podcast about model railways and dioramas and detail if you're American. And I remember when my kids were very young, when Thomas the Tank Engine went from real railways to CGI.
Yeah.
And aside from the fact that I was sleep deprived, I was fucking furious about it. I was really angry for weeks. I remember getting right on my high horse about the fact they've just destroyed whatever. I mean, apart from the fact that Thomas is a complete flute. I mean, an absolute
he's
spam
a dick,
satchel.
Yeah.
I mean, he was all the trains were basically useless. No wonder the controller was so fat. He was just panic eating about the fact that nothing would ever get delivered and no one would ever get anywhere. But no, Thomas was totally useless. Fat controller would go, right, the points are going to change. When they do, you're going left. He'd just go, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
You're going left, and if you want to keep your job and your siding and your space in the shed to sleep, you just go, yeah, okay, whatever, and then just immediately not do it. I mean, what an absolute arsehole.
He's just saying, serially incompetent. He's worse than Postman fucking Pat, and let's be honest, he should have been sacked years ago.
Oh, special delivery service.
Thomas and his mates there's a Thomas book, which is, I think, an American published one, because amongst other things, it features a Scottish castle, and they keep referring to it as the Scottish castle. And you go, hang on a minute, Thomas isn't set in Scotland. It's just, I think this is just a thing that Americans might do.
So do.
They refer to a very sort of baronial old place as a Scottish castle. But this book is weird for a number of reasons. But at the end of it, having fucked up a really simple task, the fat controller, whatever he's called now, Sir Topham Hatt, isn't he? He says, I'd say it's a job well done. You go, no, it's not. It was a really simple task that they made a complete cock of it. I mean, don't reward them for this. They'll never learn.
Well, he's drunk to forget, hasn't he? So just before the end of the working day, he's just put away a really large bottle of fortified wine, and he's just drunk to completely erase memory of the total shambolic schedule.
It's incredibly badly run rail network that he presides over. It's just it's got systemic problems that he doesn't know where to begin. So he just opens a bottle of Stone's ginger wine. There's the thing, actually, in this weird book with the Scottish castle in it, it becomes apparent that Thomas and his mates have fucked up early doors, and then the next page it's a lift the flap book, and you lift a flap and it shows that Sir Topham Hatt's gone for lunch, and you go,
what during a catastrophe?
Yeah. He's just in the building behind the station having lunch. You lift the flap of one of the windows, and there he is having a massive banquet. And you just go, "What an idle twat!" But meanwhile,
what?
One of the trains gets the fucking helicopter to go up and have a look for the missing things, and you go, "That's an incredible expense that you've now incurred for your incompetence." I can't even begin.
Well, Postman Pat's special delivery service. I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy's delivery area is 3 villages that are possibly 10 miles in total distance, and somebody says, and it's not even that urgent, somebody says, "Oh, Pat, I've got a package about the size of a can of Coke that I need delivering by about 5 o'clock today. That gives you 10 hours. And he goes, "I know. Look, just send the Chinook up." "What do you mean the Chinook?" I can cycle there. I can cycle there and have 5 hours grace. I could do... I know what Pat does. I reckon what Pat does, and I would love it if Pat, because I think Pat changed a van to an EV at some point, and I remember the van always sort of not quite idling right. It was obviously, the carburetor was wanked on it, but
yeah. Well,
I'd always love it.
In fairness, all of the humpback bridges were too steep, badly designed, and all the lanes are only about an inch wider than the van itself. So I mean, it's quite. I could see why he would have asked for a helicopter, because after a while, that driving must have been all right.
Well, he needs a K car, or he needs a Dakar truck, so he just goes as the crow would fly. And he'd ask Farmer, I don't know, Moustache Face, whatever he's called. He'd ask Farmer Moustache Face, he'd go, "Listen, I'm not being funny, I've got to deliver this can of Coke-sized parcel by 5, so can I just razz straight across all your fields as the crow would fly? Look, if there's a few crops damaged, I'll sort it out. Put it on my tab." I'm sure he's got a tab of damage for fences and dry stone walls, so he'd just be like, "Just stick it on the tab, mate." And of course, he carries around a bloody cat with him. I mean, if he was a DPD driver or a Hermes driver, of course he'd do the handbrake with 3 clicks on while you're still decelerating 15 miles an hour, and you'd open the door and the cat would immediately run away, because that's what cats would do, wouldn't they?
Cats do, yeah.
So he'd do a really fast delivery followed by 20 minutes of hunting and beating around bushes around the person's house trying to get his bastard cat back in the van.
Didn't write that in, because it's the kind of post-disrupting uselessness that would be Pat's sort of signature move. And then, "Oh, Pat, I'm glad I've bumped into you. I've got this second-class letter that I want delivering to that house you can literally see from here. Oh, okay, I'll get the Westland links out. Fucking lunatic. Anyway, the reason I bring up
such a massive waste of resources.
Maybe I can't remember I can't remember the area that Postman Pat set in, but maybe
Glendale, was it?
Glendale, something like that. No, that's a part of LA, I think. But it's.
Well, maybe Pat's gone to LA now. He's so famous. He just doesn't bother with really.
He hasn't made money though, has he? Because he just spunks it all away on unnecessarily complicated
on hovercrafts and
expensive
stuff
hardware
to deliver a collection of thimbles.
Oh, Pat, it's my cousin's birthday a week on Wednesday. I wondered if you could deliver this card to us. Certainly, I'll get the Akrana plan out.
Straight to an anonymous DM that I had last night. Hey, Jonny. Enjoying the content, really enjoy Smith and Sniff. Now, there's a man in our village with a Zafira turbo with a hideously loud exhaust and dump valve. I found a standard exhaust on eBay for £75. I am planning an elaborate midnight raid on his vehicle. I think my 3 a.m. me and my friend will have it sorted. I've even checked his current exhaust system out and it looks fairly new, which hopefully means the bolts won't be badly seized, but I might be able to pre-soak them in releasing oil a couple of nights before. I'm wondering... It's
fully
great.
premeditated.
Oh, this is amazing. But I'm wondering what the police's view on this would be. My main question for you and Sniff is, have I completely lost my marbles, or have either of you ever done / heard of someone doing this before? Cheers, Anonymous. So he's put PS, he woke my daughter up at 6:20 this morning on his way to work. I'm definitely doing this. That's what he said. I just want to say, right at the top of this, that messing with another person's vehicle is a crime. I don't know if he's really going to do it. I looked at his profile. He's got a nice car himself. He's a nice guy. Good car fanatic. But I think what he's saying is he's getting pissed off with a modified Zafira in his village.
It's someone who modified a Zafira might need to catch a grip. The return to standard Vigilante is an enticing prospect, though. It's like when you remember my neighbour used to have that really faded Volvo, and you were determined that one night we were going to sneak out and machine polish it.
Machine polish it with a really quiet. Yeah.
And I sort of think that's like, because how could he complain? It would just be like, what have you done to my car? We've made it nicer.
I would absolutely, because it was red and it really shows it up. I think some Vigilante vehicle detailing, I think I could get on board with. Just people, that leave like bird mess on the roof for months, and it just burns a big like acne spot on the car. And like, no.
Yeah.
Or even, this would be ultra dodgy, but if you could unlock the car and get in, you could just do an amazing job getting all the dog hair out. When the vacuum cleaner crevice tool it puts those stripes on the carpet.
Oh yeah.
Like stripes on your lawn where it looks super professional.
That's very pro,
That's a sign of a pro detail job. Yeah. And all that stuff. I don't know. It's a bit like that person a couple of years ago on... Well, it must have been via Twitter, who mysteriously sent people Hot Wheels toys and Corgi models as gifts.
Yes.
Did you ever get one?
I did. I got a little model of my Defender.
Yeah, and I got a model too, and I still don't know.
What did you get?
I'm trying to... I think I got an AMC Pacer. And I still don't know how they... How did they find my address? I mean, it's slightly creepy,
it is a bit
but at the same time...
But at the same time, it was very thoughtful. And what was he called? The die-cast...
Yeah, what was he? It was like a die-cast donut.
That's it, yeah.
Was it the die-cast donut?
Yeah.
And I loved the idea of it, and because ultimately it was done because of kindness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Kindness is still kindness, even if there's a creepy side to it, I think. I don't know. I would do it on a case-by-case basis. But in this case, it was nice. It was thoughtful. But yes, now, the man who might want to switch his neighbour's Zafira back to a standard exhaust system, I think, and I'm not a lawyer or a policeman, but I think you would have to leave the aftermarket exhaust somewhere on this person's property, you couldn't take it away because that would be stealing. That's where I see the crime lying.
It's but he wouldn't want to steal the exhaust.
No.
I think what he would do is I would wrap it in bubble pack and put it next to the car.
Yeah.
Or on the person, because if he knows where the person lives, he put it on.
Couldn't he?
Yeah, put it on their doorstep. Make sure you don't lose any of the fasteners.
Yeah.
You haven't rinsed any of those because you've pre-soaked them in WD-40. And yes, and he's got a brand new exhaust system, a standard exhaust system. It's just a polite way of going, listen.
Yeah.
I get it. You love the pop bang thing. You like the drain pipe exhaust, but you know what? It's just pissing a few of us off. And it's not like an event, it's not like a Ferrari, is it? It's not a 488.
No, do you say it's a GSI?
It's a Zafira Turbo, so I'm going to say it would be a VXR.
Ah, yes.
Probably a Zafira VXR, wouldn't it be? Or even a GSI. Yeah, pre-VXR was GSI, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because there's a GSI in the town that I live in, a blue one, and that's seen some heavy mods. I'd say there's at least 80 louvers on the front of the car. At least. There's a lot of louvers. Oh yeah, honestly. It just looks like someone's just chiseled and lifted all of the body panels. Just chisel in, lift, chisel in, lift, chisel in, lift. There's so many breathing holes. That car gets more cold air. I'm surprised it doesn't take off. It's got so much air going in and it just starts to wheelie.
Sounds drafty.
It's incredible.
So I think that all right, put it this way. You're that bloke with a Zafira. You come out, you start the car, you go, hang on a minute, something's wrong here. You give it a couple of blips. It's very quiet. You look underneath it, you realise what's happened, and then you go down the side of your house, and there, carefully wrapped in bubble pack, is your old exhaust with all the fixings. You ring the police. What do you say?
Yeah.
Someone's put a different exhaust on my car. They've stolen your exhaust, sir. No, they've not stolen it. It's just been put down the side of my house because there's a new... So what's been stolen? Well, nothing. So what's been done? They've put a different exhaust on your car. It sort of feels like there's no crime there. Like, because trespass isn't a crime, is it? It's a civil matter.
That's right.
And
I've trespassed making a video before, but I had to be very, very clear that that's what I was doing.
So they've trespassed, but that's a civil matter. It's up to the guy to find out who's been on his property and go after them. But what else is the crime of tampering? I don't know. It
is sort of I mean, I wouldn't want anyone to tamper with my property because I mean it'd be a bit like someone. Imagine if it's sort of friendly tampering. So someone round here's got a shabby looking house. It would be in the middle of the night. You gently brush off the ivy and the dirt from their pebble dash and you paint their house for them. I mean, with night vision goggles on. I mean, on the one hand, it's dead creepy. On the other hand, it's a really nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Because ultimately your house looks better. I mean, look, I quite like the idea of being a vigilante vehicle detailer.
Yeah.
Because that's saying, I don't like the state of your car. You need to look after your car better. Imagine if you went one step further. Imagine if we had this sponsored so that we could actually put new tyres on their car at night because we realised one of them's just inexcusably bald and they've been driving around at 8 psi for the last 3 months.
Well, I mean, I'd settle for just prowling the streets, pumping up people's tyres to the correct pressure.
Yeah.
Fuck me, sometimes you see some soggy tyres.
Oh, terrible stuff.
And you think,
yeah.
Really?
And you just leave a little slip of folded paper under the windscreen and it just details what you've done. So, brand new set of Continentals, both up to 32 psi. I've done your tracking, did some laser tracking. I keep it in with me in the van. We've done a clay bar. We've done full protection.
Vigilante vehicle detailing.
Yeah, I noticed piece of trim was not quite fitting properly, so I put some 3M tape on that. That'll never come off. Oh, one of your number plates was inexcusably cloudy and it looks like a glass eye, so we've taken that off. We've put a brand new one on for you.
I feel there's a TV show in here somewhere, but I'd quite like it if it was sort of a dramatisation, like the A-Team, where we just went round in a van, which we wouldn't be able to jump because it would have airbags. But if we got a transit, you could heel and tow it, and we just prowl around at night in a black transit, really murdered out transit.
I think that looks too crimey. Yeah, it looks kidnappy.
Yeah.
I think we'd have to go for something a little bit more JDM. Toyota Hiace.
Okay.
Toyota... Or, no, what's those? Oh, I know, a Suzuki Carry. I quite like Suzuki Carries because they're 1.3, I think they're 16-valve rear-wheel drive. So let's do a Suzuki Carry.
I'm not on board with this. It's too small for all of the stuff that you're going to need.
No, it's not. We keep it covert.
I suppose it's good for sneaking. Like if someone busts us, we can leap into the Suzuki Carry and drive off down an alley or something. But
actually, no, we go EV. Nissan ENV 200.
Because then we can sneak about.
Because then we sneak around like naughty cats, and we've got all of the gear. Yeah, I'm going to have to find a really, those machine polishers, they can make a bit of noise. So what I would do, I'd have to have a fleece cloak that I'd wrap around myself.
Well, hang on. What about like a sort of pop-up bell tent type thing, but it's fleece-lined and it envelops the whole car?
One of those... What, like a crime scene tent?
Yes.
Where there's always a dead body and you just see a white tent in the middle of a field?
Yeah, but lined with fleece or egg boxes or something. I don't know. It might get a bit hot.
That we should do that. So if I need to do anything involving a bit of noise, we do that. I think it would be brilliant.
But the thing is, I
feel like we need to get a detailing company on board.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if we make a complete horse's cock of actually doing the work and make their car in some way worse?
Well, that's like when people sue burglars for smashing their window to try and break in, and the burglar sues them because they cut their wrist on glass from breaking into their house. It's a
weird area, isn't it? But what I'd say is, I think
we don't want any of that shizzle.
I think we're onto something somewhere. I just can't think. But I was thinking maybe your machine polisher, because if I can't get my fleece-lined bell tent up in time, you've had your machine polishing attachment thing. You've had your machine polisher modified by a specialist. You know the way that assassins would have a heavily silenced gun.
It'd be a brushless motor.
You've got a heavily silenced machine polisher.
Yeah, it'd be a cordless, brushless motor that doesn't actually turn very quickly, so it'd be slower turning, so it would take slightly longer, but it would be quieter.
I wonder if this might not be better done not necessarily at night when they're asleep, because we might wake them, but perhaps when they've been distracted, like we get them tickets to a really long film at the cinema, and so we've got
Oh, okay, so a bit like Chip Foose on Overhauling. So you get your sister to say, "Oh, I'll take your car for a service," and she takes it to a faux shonky garage where the car mysteriously disappears for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Is it one of them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do like the covert aspect and the vigilante aspect, obviously. So, yeah, we'll keep workshopping this one. I'm sure we'll get somewhere in the end. But in the meantime, that guy with the exhaust, I mean, as I said, I'm not a lawyer or a policeman, so I would say go for it.
You're a small tartan man and you know Princess Anne, and you talk quite a lot about safety. Your dress sense, they say, looks like you're on the way to a Scottish-themed fancy dress party. Oh, Jackie Stewart. Oh, Jackie Stewart. Oh, Jackie Stewart. Hey, Jackie Stewart.
The other day, I couldn't stop smiling. I started laughing to myself. I remembered that joke where the Eskimo takes his car to the garage and the mechanic goes, "It looks like you've blown a seal." And the Eskimo goes, "No, it's just some frost on my top lip." And I couldn't stop laughing because, and the bit I couldn't stop laughing about is that rather than accept that it's just a joke and it's whimsical and exists outside of reality, I was thinking, what if
if you took your car to get mended and a mechanic you thought a mechanic was accusing you of sucking off an animal. Like, what a weird situation that would be. That was misunderstood. He thought you were being accused of pleasuring a sea creature.